Hey everyone, this is Phenomenon from Merlin Sports, and joining me tonight to break down the NFC East for this upcoming 2025 season is D-Dog. D-Dog, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. So the NFC East, it is one of the legendary divisions in the NFL. So
For sure, we have some legacy teams in that division, and the Super Bowl champion emerged from this division last year. Of course, talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, who topped the division last year at 14-3. So I'm just gonna rhyme out the teams here, and then we're gonna break them down, and then we'll give our thoughts on who's gonna win the division and if anyone's gonna make the playoffs. So yeah, the aforementioned Eagles, 14-3 last year, followed by the Washington Commanders, who had a breakout year, 12-5. And Dallas, another disappointing year, finished the season at 7-10. And last in the division were the New York Football Giants, 3-14. And we're going to start with the Giants and kind of work our way up through that order. Lots of changes in New York. They've hit the reset button on the quarterback, and Daniel Jones is no longer with them. Uh, so they drafted a young quarterback, Jackson Dart. So they're gonna take a shot at another young quarterback prospect. And then they've brought in a couple of veterans as well, in Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. So Jackson Dart, I don't think he's going to start the season at quarterback, but he'll probably get in by mid-season. He's probably going to see some games because if the season goes like it's supposed to go, Giants are probably going to want to take a look at their prospects to see where, if they need to reinvest in another draft pick for a quarterback, or they like what they see in Jackson Dart. Of course, they added Abdul Carter, one of the best defenders available in the draft. So, but bes despite maybe the limitations on the Giants on offense and how terrible offensive line. They look like that they got some players on defense. Dexter Carter, a down lineman. Of course, Abdul Carter going to slide in, on the edge. Their defense is looking pretty good. And I think that's going to be the highlight of the team. I mean, you do have Malik Neighbors, so he had a really good year last year as a rookie. So if he looks like he's going to be a star at wide receiver. Running back doesn't look too great. I don't really see any any game breakers at running back. So I think they're going to struggle this year. They're going to turn to the rookie by midseason at quarterback, and they play in a tough division, and I think they're going to be hard pressed to top four wins this year for me. How do you think the Giants are going to fare?
I think you're being kind with the 4 wins personally, but no, I mean this is a team that's in flux. It's rebuilding. They thought they had a quarterback in Daniel Jones. They found out really quickly last year. I want to say by midseason they knew that he wasn't the quarterback of the future. He hadn't shown it, but they gave him a big contract, so they dumped him. Um, so now that they've kind of reset, they're trying to sort of bridge the gap between future and the current situation. Jameis, he's got a lot of potential. He's a veteran quarterback. He's got a great arm. He can move around a little bit, but he's never really put it together. And also he's a turnover machine, right? He turns the ball over a lot. He was a little bit better last year, and not turning the ball over. He can give you big games in passing. and he's going to have a really good wide receiver in Malik Neighbors, who was fantastic last year, despite all the other stuff around the Giants. But I still think they're going to suffer from the fact that they gave up, I think the best running back in football, and you just can't replace guys like that. And the Giants are one of those teams. We talked about Buffalo yesterday, re-signing James Cook. The Giants kept not wanting to re-sign and give Saquon Barkley his money, and then he walked, and they found out just how valuable he was. Um, I mean, I think they're a 3-14 team. Like they're gonna win. They're gonna win a couple games. But they have a pretty tough schedule. Um, they got Washington, Dallas right out of the Bucks, and they got KC and the Chargers. They can easily be going 0-4 before they at least get a winnable game in New Orleans. But so I don't see them going to be competing in this division. I think that
Yeah.
they've got a plan for the future. Jackson Dart's a pretty good quarterback. Um, we'll see how much it was his system, how much was him. If he gets into games, he's learned under a very good offensive mind in Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, but we'll see how he goes in terms of coming to the NFL and does that translate for him?
Yeah.
So
It's actually a bit surprising how hard their schedule is for finishing so poor last year, but
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I just looked at the schedule, and I mean, I mean, obviously you got the NFC East teams, but KC, Chargers, Denver, uh, San Fran. All right, who knows how good they're going to be, but they were very
Green
good last.
Bay, Green
You know,
Bay.
Green Bay, Detroit, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah,
Minnesota.
it's almost not fair.
It's cruel. It's cruel for them because they
Yeah.
weren't a very good
Yeah, it's
football
a
team
bit
last
cruel.
year, right?
Well,
And they're
yeah.
playing they're playing some of the upper echelon teams who made the playoffs last year.
Yeah. Oh well, I guess that rebuild is going to take a while. Let's move on to America's team. Of course, talking about the Dallas Cowboys, always front and center in media attention. So they kind of imploded last year after Prescott was lost for the season during the year. So again, that seems to have happened more often than not lately. They did, and there's an ongoing contract dispute right now as well with Micah Parsons. So, but just like we discussed the other ones that are happening around the league, whether Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati and Hayward in Pittsburgh, those things usually get settled before week one. I think maybe Chris Jones was the one that took a while to get settled a few years back in Kansas City, but
He did.
this one, I'm not so sure about this one because this one looks like it got a bit personal. So I don't know if I'm sure Jerry Jones does not want to trade him. It's just a bit of that's just how he is, and he's getting older. So I think that he just can't control himself in front of the media sometimes. I think he wants to sign him, but I don't know, man. I don't know if Parsons wants to stay anymore. But Dallas has made there's a lot of roster turnover. So uh, they're bringing in, they're losing a few players and they're bringing in a few players. So they're bringing in Joe Milton as the backup to Dak Prescott, and he might see some action this year. Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams running back, George Pickens at wide receiver. So they're bringing in some players because they're losing some players. So Cooper Rush and Trey Lance go out as their quarterback depth. The running back Rico Dowdle, Brandon Cooks, wide receiver. So yeah, they're kind of bringing out with the old and in with the new in Dallas. Um, and well, it's just hard to predict because you don't know what their health is going to be like. I and then I'm referring to Dak Prescott. They seem to live or die with how his health goes. They have decent wide receivers, right? CD Lamb, George Pickens, although they're bringing in Pickens and I think he kind of wore out his welcome in Pittsburgh, so maybe I guess Dallas is the biggest stage, so that might be a good match, but I'm not so sure about that. Jake Ferguson, pretty decent tight end. Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams as running back. So, uh, it might be okay, but it doesn't, I don't think they're going to overwhelm anybody. So I'm not so sure about, Dallas this year. I think that they'll probably be, maybe I will give them an 8-9 season, hovering. They'll be around the 500 mark pretty much all year, and so they'll settle around 500. But because there's 17 games in the season, I'll say 8-9. And what do you how do you think the Cowboys are going to do?
Well, it's clear the Cowboys have one major problem, and they haven't been able to solve it. I don't understand why why Jerry Jones hasn't done what he's wanted to do for years, which is hire himself as head coach. He's already the GM, so he just really wants to be the head coach. But in all seriousness, um, last year was a lot of turmoil in Dallas, right? Yeah, Mike McCarthy, who was on the last year of his contract, he was like a lame duck coach. Dak went down, and with Dak going down, even though Dallas is sort of competitive, without him, you still need to have that I don't want to say franchise type quarterback, but a very good quarterback in order to win in this league. And so losing Dak really hurt them. I mean, Cooper Rush wasn't bad, but he wasn't great either in terms of leading them. Um, I think this year coming back, we'll see how Dak manages his health and if he can stay healthy. He's been pretty durable, although he's had a couple injuries in the last few seasons because as you get older, he gets moved, he moves around a little bit. And although he's a big guy, he still gets hit a lot. I know they brought in Joe Milton as the backup. Um, Joe is a guy with a cannon arm, can move, can run, but his accuracy's always been a question. And in the NFL, if your accuracy is not up to speed, you're going to turn the ball over. So I'm not sure that's an upgrade at the quarterback spot. But I will say that they upgraded their running backs, which is huge for them because they didn't have a running back last year. Their running backs were not. They lost Tony Pollard the year before, like in the last off season, and they didn't really replace anybody. I think they brought back Zeke Elliott toward the middle of the season last year, but um, bringing in Miles Sanders helps them in terms of getting a solid running back. George Pickens adds to their wide receiver course. CD Lamb and Pickens are going to be a good wide receiver tandem, and Jake Ferguson, gives them a nice outlet as a tight end. I think Dallas is going to be able to score. The real question is their defense. Um, Sometimes they look like world beaters, and sometimes they just embarrass themselves. And insulting Micah Parsons, I'm not sure. I'm not sure they can overcome that. And I think that's Jerry's biggest problem is that he doesn't want to pay them, but then he ends up paying them. Right? It's just so funny the way it is. He didn't want to pay Dak Prescott. No, Dak's not a franchise quarterback. Next thing you know, Dak signs for the richest contract in NFL history. Right? CeeDee Lamb he didn't want to sign CeeDee Lamb. Next thing you know, he signs like one of the higher paid wide receivers in the NFL.
Yeah,
So
like Micah Parsons is going to get his money. I don't know why.
he's going to get
Yeah.
his money and just that. I mean, Micah Parsons is a very very good d- defensive end linebacker, outside linebacker. They asked him to do a lot of things, and when he's able to do those things, he creates a lot of havoc. But he hasn't played in the preseason, number one, and that hurts because now you're getting your reps in the regular season, and you're not as sharp. So, and besides, I think he'll honor his contract. The problem is how much is he demotivated by the fact that he's not getting any progress with his extension and a new contract for next season. And I think that's going to be that might hurt Dallas. I think they're the third best team in this division. I don't think they're any better than the third best team in the division. Uh, they might I'll say they improve a couple games and they go 9-8. Um, with the way the NFC is, probably doesn't make the playoffs. But I got to lean towards Washington and Philly as the two best teams in this division. So
Hmm.
I don't see Dallas making the playoffs. I think they'll be better than last year. But until Jerry um, conducts the interview, and it's card, but I think he'll conduct the right interview this offseason. Brian Schottenheimer is not a bad coach, but he's also not Jerry Jones.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
let's
Yeah.
move
So
on
we're
to
both, yeah,
Washington.
let's
Yeah.
move on to the Commanders. And what a surprise year last year. So big things are expected. How are you feeling about the Commanders this year? Why don't you go first this time?
Yeah. Well, I think the Commanders, they had a great year last year. They snuck up and surprised a few people. Jaden Daniels was every bit as good as the number one draft pick that he was, or like, in terms of a top notch quarterback. They added Debo Samuels, they added Laramie Tunsil, so they've upgraded some of their skill positions and on the line, and I think that helps them. I think the challenge is, and they brought in Josh Connolly, who is a very good offensive line out of Oregon. So, uh, uh, you know, I think that the challenge for them is going to be, can they get Tyler McLaurin signed? Right? He's
Terry
kind of
McLaurin. Yeah.
yeah, McLaurin signed because he's holding out, right? So I think if they get him, um, now they have really good weapons to help their team, right? They had Jaden Daniels was awesome last year, and it's to get a guy like Debo Samuel. I mean, I don't think people realize sort of the Swiss Army knife type of player he is, and I think San Francisco actually made a mistake getting rid of him because he can do so many things on the field. Grant you, his health has always been a concern. But I think with the opportunity that he's going to get with playing with Daniels and McLaurin, if and when he gets signed and gets back here, his situation is different than Micah Parsons. I think he wants to stay in Washington. He just is not feeling the love right now, and that might bother him. But I think this is a team that's could over unseat Philadelphia, right? They're ready to make the next step. I mean, they found a quarterback, and they've got some good solid talent at the other positions. So I think this is a team that can challenge for thing for the lead. They were 12-5 last year. I'll say they stay 12-5. Maybe they won't move up because I mean Dallas is going to get better. They have two wins against the Giants.
Yeah. Well, so will
Right.
so will most so will most teams. But no, I mean, yeah, I mean, Washington are, I mean, they made the semifinals, right? The NFC Championship last
Right.
year. And the Jaden Daniels plan just exploded into space. And now expectations are really high. And we almost saw a similar thing with CJ Stroud in Houston 2 years ago in his rookie year, although he didn't get quite as far in the playoffs, but he was outstanding, and he won the first playoff game. So they made it to at least the second round. Um, and then he kind of was more ordinary in the second year. So I think people are kind of waiting to see if there's a regression in Jaden Daniels just because he set the bar for himself so high. Um, so there's high expectations. hopefully they'll get McLaurin. That contract will all get settled. Um, because you got to like Washington's chances, right? You mentioned Samuel, and adding a top offensive guard too in Tunsil. So I I love to see when a team prioritizes offensive line whenever they have a young quarterback, because you need to protect them, you need to insulate them so they can grow and season in the game, right? Get that experience without getting knocked to the ground every snap. So, uh, yeah, 12-5. I mean, 12-5 is going to be hard to replicate. I do not think that they're going to top Philly this year, just because no one, if they caught any team by surprise last year, they ain't catching anyone by surprise this year. So teams will, kind of be ready, they'll be more ready for them. They're not going to surprise anybody, sneak up on anybody. Teams will have film and try to game plan. I think it might be a bit tougher. They play the AFC West this season, so they're going to play KC, the Chargers, Denver, you know what I mean? So they have some quality opponents. They play Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, so they play the NFC North as well. So they have some tough matchups. I think they'll be in the same range. I'll project them to go down by a win, so 11-6. But interesting and fun to watch. So that brings us to the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, won the Super Bowl last year, had an amazing run and in the playoffs, and they ended up dominating the Chiefs in the finals and getting revenge too, of course, because they lost to the Chiefs 2 seasons prior in the Super
Yeah.
Bowl. So it was good that they avenged their defeat. So and they look to be a force this year again as well. Yeah, they added AJ Dillon at running back, so he's a pretty quality back. They didn't. I mean, they lost some players. The thing is, when you're a successful team like the Eagles, you have to pay. You start having to pay your players to keep them. So, what starts to happen is you can't afford to keep everybody. So, sometimes some good players, you have to say bye to some good players. So, they said bye to Josh Sweat, defensive end, Darius Slay. So, they lost a couple players, but I think their defense is still a force, and most of their roster is back. Of course, when you have Saquon Barkley, and then Jalen Hurts, doesn't have to play as risky. Although in the Super Bowl, I think Jalen Hurts really was the difference there, because I think KC put everything into stopping Barkley, that Hurts was able to do a lot of damage. Uh, so AJ Brown, like look at these receivers, right? Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Barkley, running back, Jalen Hurts, half decent tight end too, Dallas Goddard, and then of course their defense, right? Led by Jalen Carter. It's just stellar. It's a stellar team. And then they will be playing Dallas twice. And I'm not saying they're going to win both. Dallas will probably play them hard, right? They're rivals. But I'm pretty confident they'll beat the Giants twice, and then and then yeah. So they'll have a semi-tough schedule, of course, of where they finished. But that's expected when you're the Super Bowl champions. I think looks like they'll play the Raiders. But they'll have some tough games as well. They play Green Bay, Detroit. And they play Buffalo as well. That would be an interesting matchup. And the Rams, supposed to be good this season, and they have a rematch with Kansas City in week 2. So very difficult schedule, but I still think that they'll have a good year. I don't think they'll be as good as 14-3, just because they may there'll be some weeks where I think they might try to rest some players, kind of like how Kansas City kind of coasts down the stretch. Making the playoffs healthy is very important. So I think they'll slip by 1 or 2 wins. So maybe I'll say 13-4 for the Eagles this year. How are you liking the Eagles' chances?
Well, obviously they're the defending Super Bowl champions, so you got to respect them and you got to respect what they have. They didn't lose anybody in terms of like on offense, so they're still gonna be a very good offense. They have two really good receivers in AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. They got the guy who I think was the MVP last year in Saquon Barkley. He's a phenomenal running back ever since. And I think bringing in AJ Dillon is a nice signing because now he can spell him, right? He can give him a little bit more. He's a little different type of back than Saquon. Saquon does have some power, but right, but he's a more finesse speed guy. He can play in the slot a little bit. So having the AJ Dillon will allow them to move Saquon around a little bit more to get him into matchup and get him into space. Because if you get him into space, he can do a lot of damage. I do think where they're going to take a little bit of a step back, but they still have a lot of talent is on their front seven, right? I mean, they lost Josh Sweat, they lost Brandon Graham. I know Brandon was a little older, but he was still very effective. So that hurts them a little bit, but they still got some talent on the defensive line. You mentioned Jalen Carter um, as one. They got Nolan Smith as as an outside linebacker, sort of defensive end. They got Josh Uche they brought in, who's another guy who's like an outside linebacker, defensive end. So I think that helps them. They brought in a Dory Jackson, who's a pretty solid defensive back. So they're still going to be a very good team. And obviously, with the fact that the distractions that Dallas has, and with the Giants being weak, it's really a two-horse race. So what's going to come down to is really the three last 3 weeks of the season for Philly is Washington, Buffalo, Washington, and I think that that will decide a division. I picked Washington earlier, so I'm going to give Washington the edge. I say Washington takes the division. Philadelphia finishes second. It's different. I mean, and Philly is the hunted now, whereas they were hunting before. They're the hunted now, so it becomes harder. Yeah, they do have a fairly difficult schedule, right? I'm just looking at it now. Tampa's gonna be a good football team again. The Rams, if Matthew Stafford's healthy, is going to be a good football team. Denver's is a solid football team. Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit. So they're going to play some very tough the Chargers. So they're going to play some very tough teams. Yeah, they get some easy teams too. I think the first 3 weeks of the season for them is going to be will establish how they're going to play out the season. Right? They play Dallas in week 1 at home, but Dallas plays them very tough at home. Like Dallas plays them tough. Period.
Well,
Dak
they're
is
rivals, right? So
yeah, but Dak has owned Philadelphia. Right? That's the thing. Dak has owned them, so it'll be interesting to see that first week, and then they play the rematches. They go to KC to play them, and then although they've owned the Rams, so it will that will establish how their season's going to go. If they beat Dallas, they beat KC, they can get on a roll here, and then you're getting back to the record they had last year, or even better, right? So that's really what it's going to boil down to. I think the first couple weeks of the season establishes what they're going to do. They're 14-3 last year. They could get on the run and get back to 14-3 if the first few weeks of the season goes really well for them. But
okay.
but in terms of division,
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me?
I, I'm gonna take Washington to jump them. Philly finishes second, Dallas third, and the Giants fourth.
hmm And then who makes the playoffs?
Uh,
Philly's
what
gonna make the playoffs.
Philly and Washington will make the playoffs.
Okay. I just have the Philly and Washington flipped from you. So I have the
Yeah.
Eagles, Commanders, Dallas, and Giants, and both. And Philly making the playoffs, of course, as a division winner, and Commanders as a wild card.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we
I
see that
think
we see.
it'll be close, and they'll be close in the standings, Philly
Yep.
and Washington.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. All right. Well, that does it for the NFC East. So thanks, D-Doc, for breaking that down with me. And
No problem.
yeah, we'll catch up on the next preview show. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Take care.